The digital clock on her dashboard read 12:43 a.m. as Kyla Cooper pulled into the driveway of her boyfriend's Rockdale County home. The 24-year-old mother of two clutched the steering wheel, rehearsing the words she'd say one last time. Her news would change everything. A third child was on the way. What Kyla couldn't know was that these would be the final moments of her life. Welcome to Shadows of Crime. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button now to join our community as we examine the darkest corners of human behavior. Today's case will leave you questioning how quickly passion can transform into violence. June 20th, 2024. A warm Georgia night. 3 lives intersected in a deadly triangle of love, jealousy, and rage. By sunrise, 1 woman would be dead, another facing murder charges, and a man caught between them both. "My daughter never even had a chance to defend herself," Ronald County would later tell Fox 5 Atlanta, his voice breaking as he described how his daughter was gunned down at point-blank range. "The girl just pulled a pistol out and shot her right in the head." The midnight drive to share pregnancy news with her boyfriend should have been a moment of connection. Instead, it became a fatal miscalculation when Kyla encountered Arkia Tate, the other woman in her boyfriend's life. What happened in those frantic moments when Kyla realized she wasn't the only woman in Rashad Thompson's life? How did a verbal confrontation escalate so quickly to gunfire? And why did Tate feel so threatened by Kyla's pregnancy announcement that she resorted to lethal violence? As Kyla's car rolled to a stop that night, she couldn't have known that Arkia Tate was already inside the home, a detail that would prove fatal in the minutes to come. The young mother stepped out, walked to the front door, and set in motion a chain of events that would leave her 2 young children motherless and her unborn baby never to take a first breath. The 911 call came at 12:58 a.m. By then, it was already too late. This isn't just another story of relationship violence. It's a stark reminder of how quickly jealousy can ignite, how deadly secrets can become when exposed, and how lives can shatter in an instant of rage. What drives someone to eliminate a perceived rival with such cold efficiency? And could anyone have prevented this tragedy? Stay with me as we piece together the events of that fatal night in Georgia and the lives forever altered in its wake. At just 24 years old, Kyla Cooper had already embraced the challenges and joys of motherhood twice over. Her children, ages 4 and 5, were the center of her world, their photos filling her social media accounts with moments of code playground visits, birthday celebrations, and bedtime stories. Friends described Kyla as a devoted mother who worked tirelessly to provide stability and love for her young family in Conyers, Georgia. "She put those kids above everything," a childhood friend would later tell local reporters. Everything Kyla did was with them in mind, every extra shift, every sacrifice. The relationship between Kyla and Rashad Thompson had been complicated from the start. They'd met through mutual friends at a local community event 2 years earlier, and their connection was immediate but turbulent. Thompson, charismatic and attentive when present, was also prone to unexplained absences and vague explanations about his whereabouts. Despite these red flags, Kyla remained hopeful that their relationship would stabilize. What Kyla didn't know, or perhaps chose to ignore, was that Thompson was maintaining multiple relationships simultaneously. While he spent some nights at Kyla's apartment playing with her children and discussing future plans, other evenings found him at Arkia Tate's residence, building a parallel life that would eventually collide with Kyla's in the most devastating way possible. The pregnancy test showed positive in early June 2024. Kyla sat on the edge of her bathtub, staring at the 2 pink lines while her children slept down the hall. A third child hadn't been planned, but as the initial shock subsided, determination took its place. She decided to embrace this new life growing inside her, regardless of how Thompson might react to the news. For 2 weeks, Kyla attempted to arrange a private moment to tell Thompson about the pregnancy. Text messages went unanswered. Planned meetings were canceled last minute. Growing increasingly frustrated, she made the fateful decision to drive to his home that night, believing a face-to-face conversation was the only way forward. Ronald County, Kyla's father, had always maintained a close relationship with his daughter. A retired postal worker who had raised Kyla largely on his own after her mother's departure when she was 9, County was the steady presence throughout her life. Something just didn't sit right. But Kyla always wanted to see the good in people. The last time County spoke with his daughter was a phone call earlier that fateful day. Kyla had mentioned needing to have an important conversation with Thompson, but didn't share details of the pregnancy. Their call ended with the usual "love you" exchange, words that would haunt County in the days to come, knowing they were the final ones they'd ever share. June 20th began as an ordinary Thursday for Kyla Cooper. She dropped her children off with her aunt for an overnight stay, explaining she needed to handle some adult business that evening. Throughout the day, she sent multiple text messages to Rashad Thompson, attempting to coordinate a meeting. Phone records would later show her final message at 11:37 p.m. "We need to talk tonight. It's important." Security footage from a neighbor's doorbell camera captured Kyla's sedan pulling into Thompson's driveway at 12:43 a.m. She sat in the car for nearly 2 minutes, applying lipstick in the rearview mirror and checking her phone one last time before stepping out. The camera caught her straightening her shirt and taking a deep breath before walking toward the front door. What Kyla couldn't have known was that Arkia Tate's car was parked around the corner, out of sight from the driveway. Tate, 26, had been in a relationship with Thompson for over a year, believing herself to be his primary partner. According to later police interviews with Thompson, Tate had arrived unexpectedly earlier that evening, suspicious after seeing a notification on his phone. Kyla knocked on the door at 12:46 a.m. Thompson answered, visibly nervous according to his later statement. He attempted to step outside, closing the door behind him, but Tate appeared in the hallway, demanding to know who was at the door. The next moments unfolded with devastating speed. Tate pushed past Thompson to confront Kyla on the porch. Witnesses in neighboring homes reported hearing raised voices almost immediately. One neighbor, who asked not to be identified, told investigators she heard a woman yell, "You think you're special? You're just another one of his girls." Thompson later told police he attempted to separate the women, explaining to Tate that Kyla was just a friend while simultaneously gesturing for Kyla to leave. Instead, Kyla stood her ground. "I'm not just another girl," she reportedly said. "I'm carrying his baby." Those words changed everything. According to Thompson's statement, Tate's expression transformed instantly. Without another word, she turned and walked back inside the house. Thompson, believing the confrontation had ended, began apologizing to Kyla, suggesting they talk another time. 30 seconds later, Tate reappeared at the door, this time with a 9-man handgun in her right hand. "No, you're not," were the only words she spoke before firing a single shot. The bullet struck Kyla in the head at point-blank range. She collapsed immediately on the front porch while Thompson screamed and backed away. Neighbors reported hearing the gunshot at approximately 12:52 a.m., followed by a car engine starting and tires screeching as Tate fled the scene. Thompson, in shock and panic, called 911 at 12:58 a.m. The recording captures his breathless voice. "She shot her. She just shot her in the head. Please hurry." Rockdale County Sheriff's deputies arrived at 1:07 a.m., finding Thompson kneeling beside Kyla's motionless body. Despite immediate medical attention from the responding officers, Kyla Cooper was pronounced dead at the scene at 1:23 a.m. The medical examiner would later confirm she was approximately 8 weeks pregnant. As deputies secured the crime scene, a description of Tate's vehicle was broadcast to all units in the area. A patrol car spotted her silver Honda Accord just 3 miles from Thompson's home, driving erratically on Main Street. After a brief pursuit, deputies apprehended Tate at 1:41 a.m. The murder weapon was found on the passenger's seat, still warm. Body camera footage from the arresting officer captured Tate's chilling composure. When asked if she knew why she was being detained, she reportedly replied, "Because I eliminated a problem." Back at Thompson's home, investigators discovered a half-packed suitcase in the bedroom and 2 wine glasses on the nightstand. evidence of the domestic scene interrupted by Kyla's arrival. In Tate's purse, they found a key to Thompson's house and a framed photo of the couple, suggesting she considered herself a permanent fixture in his life. By sunrise, 3 lives had been destroyed. Kyla was dead, Tate was in custody, and Thompson was being questioned about his role in the deadly deception that had brought them all to this point. As dawn broke over Rockdale County, the consequences of the night's violence began to unfold with stunning rapidity.
Gunshots in a Rockdale County neighborhood leave a woman dead.
Detectives tell us the suspect didn't get far. She was taken into custody on I-20. Good Day's Mark Teichner just got some new information. He's live now in Rockdale County. Mark, what have you learned?
Yeah, guys, this is simply a heartbreaking situation. We've been told by family members that the victim was a mother of 2, but also had just found out that she was pregnant yet again. In fact, she was at this house that you are looking at here on Gulfview Terrace to let her boyfriend know that she was pregnant. It's his house when, according to family members, the other girlfriend of that boyfriend showed up at the house. Things escalated, and next thing you know, gunfire had rung out, and this woman ended up dead. The victim, described by family members as being about 24 to 25 years old. Her 2 other children are 4 and 5-year-olds. At this point, we don't have a lot of information about the suspect. We do know that a woman was taken into custody by sheriff officials. They say that they were able to make that apprehension fairly quickly because of some information that they actually got from people in the area.
Arkia Tate, apprehended less than an hour after fleeing Thompson's residence, sat stone-faced in the back of a patrol car. The dashboard camera recorded her staring blankly ahead, showing no visible emotion as deputies secured the murder weapon, a 9M Glock registered in her name, into evidence. At the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office, Tate refused to speak without an attorney present. By 9:30 a.m., she was formally booked on charges of felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The booking photo, later released to the media, showed Tate looking directly into the camera, her expression unnervingly calm for someone facing life imprisonment. District Attorney Jonathan Adams announced at a press conference that his office would pursue the case with the full force of the law, noting that the premeditated nature of the killing and Tate's flight from the scene demonstrated clear intent. This wasn't a crime of passion, Adams stated. Ms. Tate had time to retrieve the weapon, make a decision, and act with deadly precision. In an unexpected twist, Rashad Thompson, the man at the center of the deadly triangle, found himself in handcuffs by mid-morning. While being questioned about the shooting, officers discovered Thompson had an outstanding warrant for probation violation related to a previous drug possession charge. Additionally, a search of his home revealed an unregistered firearm in his bedroom closet, resulting in a weapons charge. Mr. Thompson's deception created the volatile situation that led to Ms. Cooper's death, Sheriff Eric Levitt told reporters. While he didn't pull the trigger, his actions contributed to this tragedy. As news of Kyla's death spread, her father, Ronald County, faced the unimaginable task of identifying his daughter's body at the county morgue. Later that afternoon, visibly devastated and supported by family members, he spoke briefly with Fox 5 Atlanta outside the medical examiner's office. "There's no justification for this whatsoever," County said, his voice breaking. "I don't see it. This girl is simply going over there to establish a pregnancy." Pausing to compose himself, he continued, "They said my daughter never even had a chance to defend herself. The girl just pulled a pistol out and shot her right in the head, point-blank range." The interview, which went viral across social media platforms, captured the raw grief of a father confronting the senseless loss of his child. County's final words in the segment, "Now I have to tell her babies their mama isn't coming home," prompted an outpouring of community support, with a GoFundMe for Kyla's children raising over $50,000 within 24 hours. Meanwhile, at Kyla's apartment, investigators discovered a journal entry dated just 3 days before her death. The final paragraph read, "I'm nervous about telling R about the baby, but this might be what brings us closer. Maybe now he'll commit to building a real family. I want to pause here and ask you, our viewers, Have you ever witnessed or experienced how secrets in relationships can lead to dangerous situations? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're finding value in this breakdown, please hit that like button and subscribe to Shadows of Crime for more in-depth coverage of cases that illuminate the darker aspects of human relationships. As the community reeled from the shocking murder, attention turned to the two innocent children who would now grow up without their mother, and the unborn sibling they would never meet. Child Protective Services placed them temporarily with Kyla's aunt while custody arrangements were determined, adding another layer of tragedy to an already devastating situation. The Rockdale County Sheriff's Office processed the crime scene with methodical precision, working through the night and into the following day. Blood spatter analysis confirmed that Kyla Cooper had been standing directly in front of Arkia Tate when the fatal shot was fired, supporting witness accounts of an execution-style killing. Investigators photographed and collected the single 9mm shell casing found on the porch, along with Kyla's purse containing the positive pregnancy test she had planned to show Thompson. The physical evidence tells a clear story, Sheriff Eric Levitt explained during a press briefing. The victim was shot at extremely close range, with no indication of a physical struggle beforehand. The murder weapon, a Glock 19 9mm handgun, had been purchased by Tate 6 months earlier at a gun show in Marietta. Records showed she had completed a basic firearms safety course and obtained all proper permits. The gun, recovered from her vehicle during the arrest, contained her fingerprints exclusively and had 8 remaining rounds in the magazine. Ballistics confirmed what witnesses had reported: a single shot fired with deadly accuracy. The medical examiner's report detailed how the bullet had entered Kyla's forehead and traveled through her brain before lodging in the base of her skull, causing instantaneous death. Toxicology results showed no alcohol or drugs in Kyla's system, only elevated hormone levels consistent with early pregnancy. District Attorney Jonathan Adams assembled a prosecution team led by veteran homicide prosecutor Vanessa Martinez, who had never lost a murder case in her 15-year career. At Tate's arraignment, Martinez laid out the state's position with clinical precision. This defendant executed a pregnant woman in cold blood after learning she was carrying the child of a man they both were involved with, Martinez told the court. She retrieved the weapon deliberately, returned to the confrontation, and fired a single fatal shot with clear intent to kill. Tate's defense attorney, James Wilkins, entered a not guilty plea, suggesting his client acted in self-defense after feeling threatened. This claim drew audible gasps in the courtroom, particularly when Wilkins added, "Ms. Tate believed Ms. Cooper was attempting to enter the home unlawfully and felt her life was in danger." As investigators dug deeper into the case, they explored several potential motives. Text messages recovered from Tate's phone revealed a woman obsessed with maintaining exclusive access to Thompson. In one message sent to a friend 3 weeks before the murder, Tate wrote, "If I ever catch him with another woman, they'll both regret it." Financial records showed Tate had recently added Thompson to her bank account and had made the down payment on the house where the murder occurred, suggesting she had invested heavily in their relationship. Interviews with mutual acquaintances painted a picture of Tate as possessive and controlling, monitoring Thompson's whereabouts and checking his phone regularly. One question that troubled investigators was whether any children had been present during the shooting. Initial reports suggested Thompson occasionally had his teenage nephew stay with him, but detectives confirmed the house was empty except for the 3 adults that night. However, this line of inquiry led to the discovery that Thompson had never mentioned Kyla's children to Tate, maintaining the fiction that he was uninvolved with anyone else. The deception ran deep on all sides, Sheriff Levitt noted in a follow-up press conference, but only one person decided that murder was the solution. As the case progressed toward trial, prosecutors built a timeline of premeditation, arguing that Tate's decision to retrieve the gun rather than leave the situation demonstrated clear intent to kill rather than a spontaneous reaction. The prosecution team gathered statements from neighbors who heard the argument escalate, with one witness reporting a chilling pause in the shouting just before the gunshot, the moment, prosecutors would argue, when Tate made her deadly decision. The relationship between Kyla Cooper, Rashad Thompson, and Arkia Tate exemplified the dangerous complexity of modern romantic entanglements built on deception. Text messages and social media accounts revealed a web of lies so intricate that each participant existed in their own version of reality. Until the night those realities violently collided, Thompson, investigators discovered, had masterfully compartmentalized his life. To Kyla, he presented himself as a committed partner working toward a future together. Their text exchanges showed discussions about moving in together and even marriage. Meanwhile, with Tate, he had already established a quasi-domestic arrangement, allowing her to purchase a home where he frequently stayed and integrating himself into her financial affairs. He was essentially living two separate lives, noted one investigator familiar with the case. Neither woman knew the full extent of his involvement with the other. Jealousy, that powerful cocktail of fear, insecurity, and rage, became the driving force behind the tragedy. When confronted with the reality of Kyla's pregnancy, Tate experienced what forensic experts often describe as an extinction burst, an extreme reaction when something highly valued is threatened. For Tate, the revelation of Kyla's pregnancy represented the ultimate threat, not just to her relationship, but to her identity and future as Thompson's partner. The pregnancy announcement was like a match to gasoline, Sheriff Levitt later commented. It transformed an already volatile situation into a deadly one. What made the pregnancy news so catalytic was its permanence. Unlike other forms of romantic rivalry that might be temporary or deniable, a child would create an unbreakable bond between Kyla and Thompson. For Tate, who had invested emotionally and financially in her relationship with Thompson, this represented an existential threat to everything she had built. The patterns of deception extended beyond Thompson's double life. Interviews with friends revealed that Kyla had suspected Thompson was seeing other women but chose to believe his denials. Her decision to become pregnant, which some friends suggested might have been intentional, could be interpreted as an attempt to secure her position in Thompson's life. Tate, meanwhile, had told colleagues that Thompson was her fiancé, even wearing a ring he had never actually given her. She had altered her social media to remove any women from Thompson's photos and had created elaborate stories about their future together that bore little resemblance to reality. Thompson's deceptions were perhaps the most calculated. Phone records showed him sending nearly identical romantic messages to both women, often within minutes of each other. He had created separate contact profiles for each woman with specific ringtones, allowing him to maintain the charade even when both were trying to reach him simultaneously. What we see here is a perfect storm of deception, possession, and jealousy, District Attorney Adams commented. Thompson created a situation where violence became almost inevitable once these women discovered each other. The tragedy of Kyla Cooper's murder lies not just in the moment of violence, but in the months of deception that preceded it. Each person in this triangle made choices that contributed to the volatile dynamic. Thompson with his deliberate duplicity, Kyla with her determination to establish her position through pregnancy, and Tate with her possessive attachment and ultimate decision to eliminate her perceived rival. The case stands as a stark reminder of how quickly romantic deception can escalate from emotional manipulation to deadly violence when jealousy overwhelms reason and pregnancy raises the stakes to their highest level. While the murder of Kyla Cooper might appear unique in its circumstances, experts in domestic violence recognize familiar patterns that connect this case to thousands of others across the country. The tragedy represents an extreme manifestation of relationship violence, where control, possession, and fatal jealousy converge with deadly consequences. The Rockdale County case exemplifies how domestic violence extends beyond traditional definitions of intimate partner abuse. Though Thompson never physically harmed either woman, his pattern of emotional manipulation created conditions where violence became increasingly probable. By maintaining parallel relationships built on lies, he fostered an environment of insecurity and competition that ultimately turned deadly. This case illustrates how relationship violence isn't always direct, explained a representative from the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Sometimes it's about creating volatile situations and pitting people against each other while avoiding accountability. Warning signs were evident throughout the relationships, though often normalized or dismissed. Friends of Kyla noted her increasing isolation and preoccupation with Thompson's whereabouts. She had begun checking his social media obsessively and had canceled plans with friends multiple times when Thompson unexpectedly became available. For Tate, red flags included her growing financial entanglement with Thompson. Despite his limited contributions, her willingness to misrepresent their relationship status to friends and family, and her increasing surveillance of his activities. Most concerning was her firearm purchase 6 months before the murder, a decision she had explained to friends as necessary for protection, though she had never previously expressed interest in guns. The presence of firearms dramatically increases the lethality of domestic disputes. According to data from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, domestic violence incidents involving firearms are 12 times more likely to result in death than those involving other weapons, or no weapons at all. Nationwide, an average of 70 women are shot and killed by an intimate partner every month. When you introduce a gun into a volatile relationship situation, you exponentially increase the risk of fatality, noted Sheriff Levitt in a public statement following the murder. What might have been an argument becomes a homicide in seconds. Georgia ranks 10th in the nation for women killed by men with a rate of 1.73 per 100,000 females, significantly higher than the national average. In Rockdale County alone, authorities responded to over 1,200 domestic disturbance calls in the year preceding Kyla's murder, with 43% involving non-traditional domestic relationships similar to the Thompson-Cooper-Tate dynamic. The case also highlights how pregnancy often escalates already dangerous situations. Studies from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists show that homicide is a leading cause of death during pregnancy, with women facing a 16% higher risk of being killed while pregnant compared to when they are not. For many abusers and controlling partners, pregnancy represents a threat to their dominance and control. District Attorney Adams addressed this aspect during a community forum on domestic violence following the murder. Pregnancy changes the power dynamic in relationships. It creates a permanent bond that threatens those who demand exclusive control. In this case, we see how that threat triggered a deadly response. The Cooper murder also reflects the increasing complexity of modern relationship violence. With social media, dating apps, and technology enabling more secretive communication, deceptive relationship patterns have become more common and more difficult to detect. Law enforcement agencies nationwide report growing challenges in addressing love triangle violence that doesn't fit traditional domestic violence frameworks. 20 years ago, maintaining 2 separate relationships was logistically difficult, explained a domestic violence counselor who works with the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office. Today, technology makes it easier to lead double lives and easier for those lives to violently collide when the deception falls apart. As the community grappled with Kyla's death, local domestic violence organizations reported a surge in calls from people recognizing similar warning signs in their own relationships, perhaps the only positive outcome from an otherwise senseless tragedy. The murder of Kyla Cooper represents not just a personal tragedy but a community failure, a moment when multiple intervention opportunities were missed. Understanding how such violence can be prevented requires examining both individual choices and systemic responses to relationship conflict. Experts in violence prevention point to transparent communication as the foundation for healthier relationships. The deception at the core of the Thompson-Cooper-Tate triangle created an environment where assumptions, jealousy, and possessiveness flourished. Had any party insisted on honesty or been willing to walk away when it became clear honesty was absent, the fatal confrontation might never have occurred. Secrecy and deception are breeding grounds for violence, noted a counselor at the Rockdale County Family Crisis Center. When people feel they must protect relationships through control rather than communication, the stage is set for tragedy. For those who recognize warning signs in their own relationships, resources exist but remain underutilized. the National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-723 provides 24/7 confidential support, while local organizations like the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence offer safety planning, legal advocacy, and emergency shelter. In Rockdale County specifically, the Women's Resource Center provides specialized services for those experiencing relationship violence. Warning signs that should prompt immediate action include a partner who isolates you from friends and family, excessive jealousy or possessiveness, monitoring of your whereabouts, phone, or social media, controlling behavior regarding finances or decisions, threats of violence, even if seemingly joking, pressure to escalate commitment rapidly, inconsistent stories about their past or present circumstances. Sheriff Levitt emphasized the importance of trusting instincts. If something feels wrong in a relationship, it probably is. Don't wait until crisis point to seek help. Community intervention strategies have proven effective in similar cases. The Rockdale County Sheriff's Office recently implemented a high-risk team model, bringing together law enforcement, victim advocates, prosecutors, and health professionals to identify potentially lethal domestic situations before violence occurs. This approach has shown promise in other jurisdictions, reducing domestic homicides by up to 40%. Educational institutions represent another intervention point. Following the tragedy, Rockdale County schools expanded their health curriculum to include more comprehensive content on healthy relationships, consent, and recognizing warning signs of control and manipulation. For those already in potentially dangerous relationships, safety planning is essential. This includes establishing a code word with trusted friends to signal emergency, saving money in a separate private account, keeping important documents accessible, identifying safe places to go if leaving becomes necessary, documenting concerning behavior, having emergency contacts readily available. The most effective prevention, however, remains community vigilance. Neighbors who hear arguments, friends who notice concerning behavior changes, and family members who observe unhealthy relationship patterns all have opportunities to offer support before violence occurs. In the aftermath of Kyla Cooper's murder, the ripples of tragedy continue to spread outward. Two young children, just 4 and 5 years old, now face life without their mother. Their understanding of the world forever altered by an act of violence they're too young to comprehend. A third child will never take a first breath, becoming a silent casualty in this deadly triangle. Ronald County, who lost his daughter in the most senseless way imaginable, now shoulders the responsibility of raising his grandchildren while navigating his own grief. They ask when mommy's coming home, he shared in a recent community vigil. How do you explain to a child that mommy is never coming back because someone chose violence over walking away? Arkia Tate faces the prospect of spending decades behind bars, her future sacrificed to a moment of rage and jealousy. And Rashad Thompson, though facing lesser legal consequences, must live with the knowledge that his deception created the conditions for tragedy. The case of Kyla Cooper offers painful lessons about conflict resolution in an age where relationships have become increasingly complex. When confronted with relationship challenges, whether deception, jealousy, or unexpected news, violence is never the answer. The ability to walk away, to choose distance over destruction, can literally save lives. This tragedy also highlights how quickly words can escalate to irreversible actions. The journey from verbal confrontation to lethal violence took less than 2 minutes. A stark reminder that in moments of high emotion, the decision to introduce a weapon changes everything. If you've found value in this examination of a preventable tragedy, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Shadows of Crime. More importantly, share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you witnessed warning signs in relationships around you? What steps do you take to maintain healthy boundaries in your own relationships? For anyone currently experiencing relationship violence or concerned about someone who might be, resources are available. National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-7233. Crisis Text Line. Text HOME to 741 741. Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence 1 800-334-2836. Remember that seeking help isn't a sign of weakness but of courage. No relationship is worth your safety or your life. As we conclude Kyla's story, let us honor her memory by recognizing the warning signs in our own relationships and communities, and by having the courage to intervene before another life is needlessly cut short.